Hey Curio friends, welcome to the Curio Art Studio. I'm here today with my awesome daughter Ayla.
Hi!
And we are going to show you how to make a sweet scarecrow just in time for fall, and we're going to guide you through drawing all of the steps together with art supplies that you have from home. We're also going to check out an awesome book that goes along with our fall and scarecrow theme today. So get your art supplies ready and get ready to make an awesome masterpiece with us today on CURIOcreates. Here's what we will be using today to make our art project. Remember, use what you have at home. It's okay if you don't have the same things that we do. Once you have all your supplies, let's get started. Now that you have your art supplies ready, we're gonna get started with an awesome, I already said awesome about 15 times today, so better be awesome by the end of it. We're gonna get started with our drawing. We are using drawing supplies today. I am drawing with a marker. Ayla is going to start with a pencil and eraser. Ayla likes to make sure her things are just right on her paper, so a pencil gives her a chance to erase. I'm gonna draw with marker so you can see it really nice and bold on the paper. When you're looking around for drawing supplies, we're looking for anything like crayons, markers, colored pencils, pastels, anything like that that you may have laying around. Or you don't even need to add color. You can just stick with a black marker or a pencil and make it a very simple drawing too. So let's get started. Ready?
Yes.
All right. We are going to start with a U. We don't want to make our U so big that we don't have room for a hat, eyes, all of our clothing we want to add to it, but we also don't want to make it so small that we can't add our facial features onto it and that it's only this big by the time we're done with it, or else I would have given a teeny tiny itty bitty piece of paper. So we are going to work with the letter U to start with. We are going to start near the side. We're going to go down towards the bottom of our paper. And then we're gonna kind of turn and go right back up, kind of a U, upside down rainbow shape. And it is okay if it is not perfect and the same or symmetrical on both sides. That's totally fine. No one is perfectly the same on both sides, especially a scarecrow. When you're stuffing it with all that hay and all that stuffing, I'm sure it's not the same on both sides. We wanna make sure that nothing is falling out of the top of our scarecrow's brain. So we're going to go ahead and close off his head up here at the top with a line that attaches it. So we have our U and the line across the top to close it off. This line is actually going to be our hat. We want it to look like our hat is sitting on our scarecrow's head. So that's really, really important. We are actually going to start down here because we want it to appear that your hat is on top of the head. When you put a hat on, it actually goes onto your head. It's not like floating up here and Ayla walks around school all day and her hat just magically floats on top. You put it on so it goes down past the top of your head and rests down here. So that's where we're gonna make the line for our hat. Even though it might seem low, that's where it would actually go. So what we're gonna be doing is we're going to make it look like kind of a cowboy hat because he's a scarecrow, and we're gonna make it look kind of like a hat that a cowboy or a farmer would wear. And we're gonna start down here a little bit lower. I'm actually gonna make two little lines that come out of the sides of his head. It almost looks like I would be drawing Frankenstein and doing the little bolts on the side, but I'm not. That's not what it's gonna look like. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna start back up here. I know I made a couple marks to help me so I know where I'm going. I made these two little lines that are lower than where my hat will be. And I made this little line on top, so this shows me where the brim of the hat is, and it gives me a spot to go back to. So I'm gonna take this little dot and I'm gonna make my line nice and even. I'm gonna try and make it the same as this line here. I'm gonna make it even. I'm gonna go out past my head because normally your hat is a little bit larger than your head, so it fits on top. And then I'm gonna swoop around like this so it kind of connects together. This is probably the trickiest part of the whole project today. And on the other side, I'm gonna take this line, extend it way over, and then I'm gonna bend it around so it meets that other side. so that it looks like a weird pancake stuck on a U shape with a line across it.
But it actually looks like pancake. Just flopped it over.
It does, it does. I like that yours curves like that. It adds some movement to it, which is really cool. I really like that. Now we're gonna make another smaller U. If we take a look at what the middle of our U would be, and we slide our marker up like this, or pencil, we wanna be in the middle of our hat. So we're gonna make a U kind of like this that goes in the middle of where our hat is. This is gonna be that part in the hat that would be where, like, if you were greeting somebody, you'd like put your hand there and you'd be like, howdy, ma'am. Or like, howdy, partner. That's the part of the hat that folds in. So that's why we're making that. It's the folded part where you could like take it on and off like that. That's what that U's for. Next, we wanna make sure that our hat fits the size of our head. Most people don't enjoy wearing hats that are 3 sizes too small. It's a little painful, so we want to make sure that these lines stretch way out and they go to our head. If we draw it right here, then our little hat isn't big enough to stretch over our head. So we're going to take this U and we're going to round this out so that it goes to where this line for our head would be, over here. And it gives it the feeling that our hat is now big enough to fit on top of our Scarecrow's head. And then you can be like, whoo, thank goodness that's over. Because that was the hardest part. That's the hardest part. You don't have to have like the dip in it. I like that Ayla's is a little like less of a dip and a little bit more rounded. If you just want to make it your own way, that's fine too. That's the awesome part of being you, is that you can make your art any way you want to. These are just some different tips to help you do things a little bit differently than you might normally go about doing it. Let's add some more detail. Now that we have our hat, we're gonna go ahead and sink down to doing our face. And this is where you can start to be really creative. I'm going to do 2 eyes that actually have like a flattened bottom to it and a rounded top like this. I like to do this project with my eyes looking kind of like this little rainbow shape. And it has the flat kind of cartoon bottoms for the eyes, but any way you want to do eyes are fine. And I think the most important part of the eyes are giving your eyes a sense of direction. And we've talked about this a little bit before in some of our episodes too. So when you're looking, if I want my Scarecrow to look straight at you, then my pupils, the middle part of my eye, would be looking straight. If I want my Scarecrow looking down, then my pupils would be looking down like this. Or I could have my Scarecrow looking over at Ayla and the eyes could be looking this way because I know she's doing something sneaky and I should watch her out of the corner of my eye. Or we could have our Scarecrow looking the other way. I don't normally like to make my Scarecrow have crazy eyes. I like to save that for some other projects when we do like crazy silly monsters or some fun stuff like that. I'm gonna make my Scarecrow nice and friendly and very relaxed looking. So I'm not gonna do anything too silly or crazy with the eyes today. I am going to have my Scarecrow looking off to the side. So I'm going to make my eyes this kind of rounded shape so that it looks this way. And if you want to, you could always add another line inside. You know, then you have an area that you can color in, an area that you can keep black. But however you want to go about the eyes is fine. You might even choose to make your eyes look a little bit more feminine. You could even make this a version of a boy Scarecrow, and so your friend might do a Scarecrow that's a girl. You could do things like eyelashes if you want to. So creative. There's so many different things you can do. Tell me about your eyes. What gave you that idea?
So I like to draw different highlights in the eye.
Yeah.
To make it look like it's kind of shiny. Because your eyes are just a flat color. They have a bit of a shiny.
That's true. I love that. I can't wait to see how you color it in. Next, we're going to do a nose. A Scarecrow is made out of different fabric and patches sewn onto it. So we're going to make it look like the Scarecrow's nose is a triangle cut out of material. You could have it be a different shape if you want. I always like to do a triangle because I think it looks the most similar to a regular nose. And then one thing I choose to do is add some extra lines in like this to make it look like there's some stitching around it, like somebody took a needle and thread and sewed this on to the fabric. So that'll be my nose. I'm gonna do a triangle too. I like that yours is a little more rounded on the top. It's a little more dainty looking. We could do tons of different mouths. I'm going to keep mine really simple with the good old-fashioned smiley face like this. And any mouth you want to do is totally fine. It's completely up to you. Remember, it's your own masterpiece, so however you want to go about it is fine. You could add more details, like maybe you're going to make some nice little rosy cheeks. What do you think?
I like it.
Nice.
It has a nice big happy smile.
Oh yeah, nice happy scarecrows. You could also choose, if you want to add a patch up in the hat. I'm gonna make a square kind of rectangle shape. And I love doing those couple little lines for stitching to make it look like it's sewn on. So I'm gonna do that. You could do something like adding a ribbon over the top of the hat right here. Might make it look like there's an extra piece of fabric across it. There are so many, it's like hard to like, remain calm. There's so many things you can do. It's hard to not overdo it for sure. I don't normally put ears on my scarecrows. I normally leave them go and let that be just empty. But I am gonna start to shift down to where the neck area would be and the shirt. I normally start off by putting, instead of a skinny neck, I make it look kind of like a shirt by adding a line that goes out kind of at a diagonal on one side and another line that goes out in a diagonal on the other side. This is gonna make it appear like there's a little bit more of a collared shirt on. Normally, now it has been like many, many years since I've actually made a scarecrow. I don't think we've ever made one with you, have you?
No.
Oh, sorry, I've deprived you. But anytime I've ever made one when I was younger, we always used like a flannel shirt. It would normally be somebody's in the family that was older, so it would be larger. And then you would use that flannel shirt and you would stuff it sometimes with newspaper, with hay, and then it would have the buttons on it. But it always had normally a collar to it. So that's what I'm gonna make sure I add to mine, is kind of that collar, because it makes me think of that old school plaid shirt that we used to make scarecrows out of. You can connect this in many different ways. You could do something where you have a zigzag that goes across it. You could do a wavy line if you want to. You could even do something where it has like, this would be called like a scalloped look across it if you want to, but any kind of line that goes from one side to the other would create a really neat neck piece for that, which would be great. Whatever you want to do and however you want to go about it is fine. I love that you tossed a button into yours. That's wonderful. I love that. And then right where these edges are of the end of your neck, that's where we're going to make the arms come out of. Normally, you put like a stick or some kind of rod through the shirt so that the arms stick out really nice and straight. So that's what we're gonna make across the side there. And I like to make mine go right off the edge. I can see that my line is not straight. It kind of is crooked, which I like because it looks like his arms are, you know, instead of straight, they're like a little more cockeyed, which is kind of cool like that. You're getting all fancy. Your scarecrow doesn't look like it's stuffed with an old broom handle, but that's okay. No, you're good. You can leave it. You can leave it. That's fine. You won't be able to do this part quite the same, because next what we're going to do down in the corners, we're going to draw this little cutout like this, and that's what's going to make it appear like the arms came out. Oh, you don't have to erase that.
You sure?
Yeah. What you would do instead,
just a line?
Yeah, it's just a little line so you can see. Ayla's gonna add a little line for like where the armpit would be, kind of your arm resting against there. Mine, my arms are sticking straight out like this, so I'm drawing the empty space underneath it. Do you like my scarecrow arm in your face? That's great. So whatever way you choose to do the arms, I'm doing mine more out. Ayla's scarecrow is a little bit more relaxed and its arms are down. So okay, I said I wanted a button-down shirt because it made me think of a traditional scarecrow. So I'm gonna do a line down the middle, and I'm gonna do little circles, and I can either do like 4 little buttons, or some people do like an X crisscross shape. And you don't have to do your shirt like this. You could do it however you want to. Some people like to put a pocket on one side in the shirt like this. You could do something like that as well. Or even some shirts have like kind of a covered part and another button. If you want to do something like that, you can. I'm still going to toss a few shapes in to make it look like it has some patching on the arms, like this shirt is just beat up and old. So somebody had to take some fabric patches to make sure the shirt was still whole again. I like that you have it coming off the shoulder. That's nice.
Kind of curving it a bit so it looks like.
Yeah, perfect. And you can definitely leave the shirt like this, or you can even make some lines to make it look like a plaid shirt. You can do that. I'm actually gonna do it with my coloring instead of doing it right now. I'm gonna do it a little bit later.
That's what I was thinking.
Sometimes I like to add things to the background, like on my shoulder, my Scarecrow's looking down, and he is going to look at this cute little, I'm gonna make a little bird on the shoulder here. Let me see. Just a little cartoon bird like this. I don't know how I want to finish the back of him. I'll just make him a little round bird with these little tail feathers like this. He'll be really cute and cartoony. Have some little feet that sits down on here and a little chicken wing. Maybe he's singing a song to the Scarecrow, add a little music note. Are these correct music notes?
Yes.
All right. I don't want to get in trouble from any music teachers watching. You could even do a little sun if you want to, or a little bit of weather. Maybe there's a cloud or two in the background. And the last thing that I'm going to skip from adding, but I think Ayla might choose to add, is some hay. If you want to make it appear like your Scarecrow has some hair, you could draw some like long skinny rectangles to make it look like there's some pieces of hay that are being used as hair. If you'd like to do something like that, you definitely can. Or any other details that you want to add, definitely feel free, because after all, this is your masterpiece.
Can I do braids?
Yeah, you can definitely do some braids if you want to. Oh, maybe I'll draw some pieces of hair coming out just for our friends at home to be able to see. Hay's not normally all the same pieces and the same size, some a little longer than others. I'm making sure that I choose some lines to be in front and some lines to be in back. I drew mine with a marker already, so I don't need to trace over mine with marker. I already drew it like that. Ayla's gonna finish adding in her details, and then when she's done, she's going to trace over everything in marker too. The reason why we choose to outline things in Sharpie a lot is so that the lines that we spent all this time creating stand out and they're really bold and vibrant. Sometimes when you draw with pencil and then you start to color, depending on how you're coloring, sometimes you can lose the lines of your pencil and you can miss all those really cool details that you chose to draw. So you could always feel free to outline in a Sharpie. If you're not allowed to use those at home, you could always just outline with a black crayon, or a black colored pencil, even a pen, something so that your lines can be a little bit more bold. And it's not something you have to do, just something that we like to do to help make your projects pop so people can see them from across the room. As Ayla continues adding details to her project and then traces it with a marker, we're gonna take a couple minutes to read this wonderful book that I found at the Zillionople Area Public Library about scarecrows. Today we're going to check out the book entitled The Scarecrow's Hat, written and illustrated by Ken Brown. As I'm reading, be sure to check out these beautiful watercolor illustrations that are hand-painted by Ken Brown himself. The Scarecrow's Hat, written and illustrated by Ken Brown. "That's a nice hat," said Chicken to Scarecrow. "Yes, it is," replied Scarecrow, "but I'd rather have a walking stick. I've been standing here for years now, and my arms are so tired. I'd love a walking stick to lean on. I'd swap my hat for a walking stick any day." Now, Chicken didn't have a walking stick. but he knew someone who did. "That's a nice walking stick," said Chicken to Badger. "Yes, it is," replied Badger, "but I'd rather have a piece of ribbon. It gets hot and stuffy underground, so I prop my door open with this stick, but I'm always tripping over it. If I had a ribbon, I could tie the door open. I'd swap my walking stick for a ribbon any day." Now, Chicken didn't have a ribbon, but he knew someone who did. "That's a nice ribbon," said Chicken to Crow. "Yes, it is," said Crow, "but I'd rather have some wool. My nest is on this high stone ledge, and it's very hard to sit on. I'd love some warm, soft wool to line it with. I'd swap this ribbon for some wool any day." Now, Chicken didn't have any wool, but he knew someone who did. "That's a nice wool coat," said Chicken to Sheep. "Yes, it is," replied Sheep, "but I'd rather have a pair of glasses. I have to keep a lookout for the wolf, and my eyes are not as good as they used to be. I really need a pair of glasses. I'd swap some of my wool for a pair of glasses any day." Now, Chicken didn't have a pair of glasses, but he knew someone who did. "That's a nice pair of glasses," said Chicken to Owl. "Yes, it is," said Owl. "My old ones broke, so I had to get a new pair. But I'd rather have a blanket. The sun streams through my window and keeps me awake all day, which wouldn't matter if I had a good thick blanket to sleep under. I'd swap my glasses for a blanket any day." Now, Chicken didn't have a blanket, but he knew someone who did. "That's a nice blanket," said Chicken to Donkey. "Yes, it is," replied Donkey, "but I'd rather have a few feathers. The flies drive me crazy buzzing around my ears. My tail isn't quite long enough to flick them away. But if I had some long feathers tied to the end of it, I could swap them easily. I'd swap my blanket for a few long feathers any day." Quick as a flash, Chicken pulled out 1, 2, 3 of her longest feathers and tied them to Donkey's tail. Donkey was delighted and, true to his word, swapped his blanket for the feathers. Chicken took the blanket to Owl, who swapped it for his glasses, the old ones, of course. She took the glasses to Sheep, who swapped them for her wool. She took the wool to Crow, who swapped it for her ribbon. And she took the ribbon to Badger, who swapped it for his walking stick. Finally, she took the walking stick to Scarecrow. With a grateful sigh of relief, he leaned his tired old arms on the stick and gladly swapped it for his battered old hat. Chicken took the hat and filled it with fresh, sweet-smelling straw. "That's a nice nest," said Duck. "Yes, it is," said Chicken, "and I wouldn't swap it for anything." What a fun story of kindness and such beautiful illustrations to go along with it. Let's check back in and see how we're doing on our Scarecrow project. Since Ayla's almost done and we're almost ready to start coloring, I want to talk to you a little bit about how I decide what art supplies to use when and where. So markers, I love how dark and how saturated the colors get when using markers, but I don't like how fast they dry out. So I normally use markers in tiny spots. You know, things like maybe the cheeks or the lines of the hair, the buttons, the eyes. I like to use markers when it's a smaller section and I know that I don't have to worry about the color running out. Where I might use crayon are big areas, like these big areas for the sky, big areas like shirts, the big area like the face, so that I'm sure that I'm going to have enough to be able to finish the area. And if I use crayon, it's nice and light so that I can still see the rest of the lines that I created, so you can still see all of the details. Remember, whatever art supply you have at home, you're free to use. So if you want to use something that we didn't even talk about today, then go for it. This is your masterpiece.
Like oil pastels.
Oil pastels are a cool art supply too. I don't know why they're not normally my go-to for some reason, but I do enjoy using them
And I'm
nonetheless.
10 years later.
Woohoo, she's finally finished. Congratulations, congratulations. Welcome to the coloring portion of the project. All right, I love these packs of crayons. They do a great job of having all of these different flesh tones, which are wonderful. I really like to use more of a beigey color or even kind of a yellowish color to make it look like this is the fabric of burlap, which is really like burlap are different bags that like grains would come in and seeds. And it has a very like rough texture to it, but normally a burlap bag was kind of like a brownish color. I don't quite want to use an orange because I don't want to make them look like a carrot. Yellow might be too harsh, so I kind of like, yeah, I like the color that's kind of that mahogany or like tan color is awesome. Any kind of like fleshy color will do great though for sure. I'm going to stick with this kind of peachy tone. Let me see. Crayola calls it apricot. And I'm choosing to use crayons for the face so that I can still see all of the extra detail I have with my marker or my Sharpie.
Are we able to even add some pink for the cheeks if we didn't want to outline them with our Sharpie?
Yeah, you can absolutely. Some people don't realize this, but you can layer with crayons. It doesn't work as vibrant as oil pastels, but if you want to add a little pink to the cheeks and you didn't draw kind of a cartoon shape like I did, you can absolutely add some reddish or pinkish color to the cheeks after you color it with your base crayon color first. I really enjoy using crayon a lot, and I like too that with crayon, like with this orange, I pressed pretty dark, but then you can also have a light hand to it also, so that it's not super dark, but very, very light too, and that's a nice way to add value to your project. I like that you chose to use colored pencil. Colored pencil is great for those teeny, teeny, tiny spots because you can really get that really nice sharpened point, which is fantastic. I'm gonna work on these pieces of hay that I drew for the hair. And one thing I wanna make sure I do is not color everything in the exact same shade of yellow or brown. What I want to do is I want to do a couple pieces one color, a couple pieces a different color, and even though they're all still kind of the same color family, it'll add depth when you're looking at the project. It'll kind of make your eye look around at it a little bit longer because it's a little bit more interesting to catch all of the different changes in the hair instead of just looking at it really quickly and seeing everything be just one color. When you're doing hair, like you can kind of show texture and all the different strands of hair by using a couple different art supplies. So when Ayla's coloring the hair, instead of just coloring it in all orange, we are going to continue having fun coloring in these scarecrows and adding all kinds of details. Once you're done with your scarecrow, don't forget to do the background. Is it just becoming morning? Is it a sunset? Or is it beautifully in the middle of a nice fall afternoon? Don't forget to be creative and make your masterpiece however you want to. Thank you so much for joining us today on our episode of CURIOcreates. We hope you learned a lot about scarecrows and how to make your own, and we can't wait to see your finished masterpiece. So if your family member lets you, have them take a picture and tag us on social media at CurioCool or #CurioCreates so that we can see your awesome masterpiece and even feature it on our own Facebook page. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you.
Bye,
see ya.
If you would like to have more content or always be in the know of something cool that's happening at Curio, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our website at CurioCool.com. This will keep you updated with any new classes, events, videos, kits, art supplies, art shows, and more.